Yeah, am I audible?
Yes, sir, you are.
Yes. So, good afternoon and welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us. I think already 10 participants have joined in. So, we at BPP Publications are pleased to present a webinar today on cloud trends and how to manage clouds of clouds, as we know that cloud computing continues to grow. So basically, the idea behind this online training is to understand cloud trends in current IT landscape, increase in the cloud adoption in the next data decade, and many other things we'll learn today. So we start with the introduction of BPP Publications. BPP is Asia's largest publisher of IT books. For the past 62 years, BPP has been a friend, philosopher, and guide for programmers, IT developers, softwares, who have made things happen in the IT world. It was started by Sri G.C. Jainji, who has been honored with the Padam Shri Award in 2002 by Honorable President of India for his contribution in spreading IT education in the country. We have published over 5,000 titles from the world-class authors and sold over 90 million books worldwide. BPP is publishing quality content on all the latest trending and emerging technologies. With our emphasis on high quality of authorship, authenticated content, editorial and production values, our educational and professional divisions have been fulfilling the requirements of a vast number of readers. So today it's a great honor and pleasure to invite the speaker of the day, Mr. Anay Pathak and Mr. Jey Kaliraj. Mr. Anya has over 15 years of experience in DC virtualization, public cloud, data management, and cyber recovery, and is currently working as global pre-sales consultant at Dell Technologies. Mr. Jay has over 18 years of IT experience in architecture consulting, development, new business development of IT applications, and infrastructure. He is currently playing the role of cloud native practice technology head at Wipro across the US, Middle East, Europe, and Africa. So, everyone, please get ready for the great session. Welcome, Anya. Welcome, Jay. Jay. So,
Thank you
we
so
are
much.
happy to have you here. Please start and please share your experience with our participants. So, over to you,
Thank
Anya.
you.
Thank you so much.
Just
Yeah, thank
trying
you,
to.
Surbhi. Yeah.
Jay, just let me know if you're able to see my screen.
Yes, I'm able to see your screen.
Yes,
Okay.
we are able to see.
Thank you so much for the warm welcome, Surbi. And it's a pleasure for us to present in this forum. Uh, while I know, I mean, in current new normal, we are overwhelmed with webinars and sessions and the way we want to learn, right? So uh, coming on Saturday, joining the webinar is a pleasure for us. And we definitely know there are a lot of people who would view these webinars later on. And even if you view these webinars later on, feel free to reach out to BPB if you have questions, clarifications, something which you cannot ask live because you have other commitments and you can't join live. We are happy to assist you and basically share whatever little we have learned. So before starting, whatever I or Jay would be talking about is our learning in this domain. So this is all our personal research, learning, what we have learned so far and trying to share it with wider audience. There's nothing which we would talk about our work or how we use this learning related to our work. So it's all our thoughts, our learning, which we would present today. Before I go ahead and present, maybe quickly, if the guys on the chat can tell how many of you are familiar with cloud or cloud computing, because that would help me and Jay to set the right flow for you. We wanted to ensure that this session is an interactive one, and we also wanted to make sure you are able to understand what we talk, right? We cannot tell you cloud computing in 40 minutes. So this definitely would be a series if you like it, if you get good response, And if you look at it from a learning point of view, but quickly in the chat, if I can get some response in terms of how familiar you are with cloud computing. Uh, if you say yes or no is okay for me, but I'm monitoring the chat now for the people in the chat. Do you know cloud computing? Yes or no is what I need to know. And I want to make it interactive. So I would keep asking these questions and I still don't see any answer. So again, can you please let us know, people in the chat or people who have joined, uh, are you aware of cloud computing? Do you know what cloud is or cloud computing is? I see Amina saying no. Thank you so much. So we also would like to go into the technology, but we'll then keep it on a level where it is understandable to you, right? And when Jay comes into the picture, he would talk about architecture, and he would also ensure that he's talking about architecture from a perspective where it is more neutral. If you say yes, the entire presentation changes. Again, I just got one reply so far. So people, if you're listening, if you're here, just let us know whether or not you have heard about cloud or cloud computing. Another answer is no. Okay. Uh, anyone else? Thanks, Neha. Sarika, yes. Okay. Okay. So it's a mix of people, and what we would try to do is we'll try to keep it on a very high level, but still there would be some technology slide. I mean, we being technologists, we cannot escape from technology, and that is where if it is going too much into the technology side, maybe try to make a note of it as much as you can. And as and when you learn more about cloud computing, all this would be really helpful to you, right? So just setting the expectation right, because when we do these sessions, we try to keep it neutral for people who would know about it and who would not know about it. Okay, so let's begin. And before we even talk about cloud computing, what's happening in the industry is what we have to look at. Okay, so we're talking about a digital landscape for the next data decade, which means why we call it as data decade, because with everything getting digitalized, the amount of data which would come in next 10 years would surpass whatever we have generated so far. Okay, so that is why we call it as data decade. And this is purely due to digitalization and digital transformation which is happening. And this digital transformation is now 3 to 4 times more with the new normal, because we understand how accessible everything should be when you are trying to access it from your home, right? So if there is something which is still in a traditional format, it is very, very difficult to access the same. And that is why we talk about a data driven digital transformation. And what we have seen is there's 9 times more data which is going to a cloud like model when compared to 2016. Okay, 98% of people are trying to invest in emerging technologies, and 94% of them prefer cloud as a deployment choice. So this is a study which is done, and these numbers clearly tell us that people prefer cloud deployment model as they move into the data decade and as they move into the digital transformation for the IT landscape, right? But while you look at this, you also have to look at the exponential data volume increase, which I just talked about, the rapid innovation which is happening right from the uh, technology around AI, ML, big data processing, and IoT sensors, right? So everything becomes so much important because you need to simulate the physical world in a virtual world, right? So we're talking about AR, VR enabled sessions where if you wear those glasses, basically it feels like you're sitting in a classroom and attending a session, right? So that is the level of innovation where we are, and the data which is distributed. Because if I generate the data on my laptop, it is on my laptop, but I cannot have it on my laptop. So I have to distribute it, which means I have to maybe back it up in the public cloud. That is where your Google Drive, OneDrive comes into the picture. And we have to ensure how the distribution of the data is and what is data which is critical and what is not. For business, critical data can be completely different. For a person, the critical data would be his own memories. Let's say photos are very critical to me. I love photography. I always look at my photos as one of the critical data to me because I would always like to review them, right? So it totally depends what business critical data is for you. And then the resources and the constraint, right? So totally dependent on the internet connectivity, internet bandwidth. But there are other resources as constraint which we have. We cannot back up, let's say, more than 50 GB on a Google Drive. So what to do, right? So all these constraints are there when it comes to managing the data and the distribution. And the data is generated from edge to core to a cloud-like environment, which can be a public, private, or a mix of it, which we call as hybrid cloud. Okay. So before we progress, what is cloud? Okay. So cloud is basically not a destination. It is how you deploy your IT, which means it is your deployment choice in terms of how you can provide compute, network, storage, protection, security in a way it is easy to consume, easy to build, and it is totally flexible, right? So whenever you run IT, you talk about data centers or you talk about big servers in the past. Now we are trying to ensure we are able to share this in a most effective way so that you are able to use it the way you want to use it with a flexible consumption model. So your enterprise IT or the information technology is really complex and your business demands agility as well. And that is where whenever we talk to everyone, everyone is on cloud first strategy, right? So whenever we talk to our customers, they also talk about a cloud first strategy because of the benefits which cloud would give. But before we even talk about the benefits, let's understand some of the challenges, right? Because when you talk about a cloud-like model, it is really important to ensure that we are able to do governance and compliance on it because you are using a shared model and everything is shared in a cloud-like environment. It becomes really important for me and Jay as consultant to tell customers, to tell business that while you are moving to this model, we also have to ensure that we have right process in place when it comes to governance and compliance. Then you have a lot of siloed approach, right? So you have Amazon Web Services, you have Microsoft Azure, you have Google Cloud Platform, you have Alibaba, you have IBM Cloud, you have Dell Technologies Cloud, and you have so many clouds in terms of when we talk about a lot of vendors which are available. We have to think about how to manage this cloud of clouds because this is what we talk about public cloud, which is purely accessible without owning the infrastructure. And then we also talk customers talking about private cloud. Private cloud is basically hosting or managing everything, but giving it to the end customer the way they want to use it, which is as a service model, right? So private is where it is being managed in a data center where you still have some control over it. Public is basically managed by the vendor completely, which is AWS, Microsoft, Dell, Alibaba, Google, whatever we talked about. And that's how the approach differs between public and private. Application management becomes even tougher because we are used to managing these applications on premise, which is when I say on premise, in the data center where we know how the network connectivity is. When it goes to the cloud, you have to do a lot of assessment before you can talk about the application management, right? Spiraling cost. Cost in the cloud is something which me or maybe Jay can talk about hours and hours. Because when we move to cloud, it looks like pay as you go model, but it's all about how you manage it, right? So consider it, you are sitting in a room and if you go out of the room, you don't switch off the light, you will still have to pay the electricity bill. So when we talk about cloud, cloud is an operating model and you get everything from rental, right? So for rental, you will be charged for every minute, every hour, every day, you are using those resources in rental. And that is where best is to use it effectively, wisely, so that you can save on that rental cost. And please make sure that you switch off the light when you move out of the room, because you have to save energy, right? So just an example. And then last but not the least is shortage of skilled staff, right? We talk about staff, we talk about so many people in the industry where we are all looking at a cloud trained resources. And cloud is not that old, right? It is not there from, I would say, 80s or 90s. So finding a skilled staff again becomes a challenge where we don't get people who can manage the environment in a perfect cloud-like model. Gives an opportunity to us as well, right? Because if we learn this technology, if we understand the concepts, this can be a very, very big use case for us. This can be a very good asset for us while we are looking for job in the market, right? So that is where we have shortage of skilled staff. These are some of the cloud challenges, but what is the business requirement, right? What people are looking at is in this slide. So typically, when we talk about cloud, people are looking at certain business outcomes, which means I want to achieve this. Whether with cloud, no cloud, private, public, this is where we get in and guide that and tell that how you will be able to achieve your business outcome. And then there are different models of cloud, which is IaaS, infrastructure as a service, PaaS, which is platform as a service, SaaS, which is software as a service. All that things or all these models has to be wisely chosen so that you can give this service to the end customer and they are able to achieve their business outcome in the end, right? Security is the utmost priority. So you have to secure your cloud, ensure that whatever you are doing is available for monitoring, reporting, and management in a single pane of glass. You should have a single console. You are able to do everything from that single pane of glass. Billing should be single. And most importantly, not only billing should be single, you should be able to understand the bill and optimize the bill as well. As I said, in cloud-like model, there are high chances that you will be charged more because you have not followed the best practices. So that is where your billing matters. You should be able to shop for your IT services. So as we do in Amazon, Flipkart, or for that matter, do Zomato, Swiggy, add to the cart, add the item and order. That is where business is looking at that. Am I able to add this feature services into the cart, do a checkout, pay, and I'm able to use that service. And it can be a database, a web application, a resource, or if you're trying to do some coding and you need more resources, buy it, do your coding, use those resources, give it back. And that is how people want to use cloud, right? So as I said, it is a rental thing. We used to get comics in our childhood as rental. So I remember we used to get it for one day, and then once we read the comics, we used to give it back, and we pay rental for one day. Similarly, cloud also, you need to wisely think, analyze, and use the way you want to use it. Financial and operational dashboards, again related to the cost side of it. It should be simple to use when it comes to the services, your analytics and your projections for spend. And these are related. If you're able to do good analytics, your chances of projecting your spend accurately is much, much higher. And that is where, as I always say, we look into this model, but we also have to look into how cost effective this model can be if we do right analytics and maintain the best practices around cloud computing. The order fulfillment is basically when you shop for the IT services, how soon you can get it, how you are able to monitor your cloud workloads, if it needs more resources, if it needs more compute. And last but not the least, how we can manage everything seamlessly. And that is where I would have Jay talking more in terms of managing the cloud of clouds. And when you say cloud of cloud, it is private, public, hybrid, and the vendors which I talked about. Basically, people are looking at, I am ready to invest in any of these, as long as you are able to give me seamless management and single pane of glass, so that I understand, even if I have a cloud of cloud, which means lot of vendors tied together in a cloud, I'm able to achieve my business outcome in the end, right? So I will now hand it over to Jay, while I'll continue presenting, and Jay, let me know when I have to move the slide. Over to you, Jay.
Thank you very much, Anay. Hi, guys. This is Jay. I'm a cloud native practice head at Wipro Technologies. Thank you very much for joining this session. It's a Saturday, and your enthusiasm to learn is much appreciated. Thank you very much. So, following to the topic and discussion of Anay's topic about the cloud trends and what are the business challenges and requirements specifically in the cloud area. So here I would like to talk about the topic of cloud of clouds. Isn't it quite interesting, right? We know, all of us, there are major cloud providers like Google Cloud Platform. You have AWS, Amazon Web Services, and Azure from Microsoft. And there are other cloud providers like Alibaba, and even you can set up your own private cloud. You have a space and you have a couple of servers. There are private cloud technologies by which you can set it up. Like you can set up a VMware private cloud, that's called VMware Cloud, and you can set up a Red Hat OpenStack clouds. These are all private clouds that you can set it up as well. This cloud of clouds is a concept by which you can become the father of all clouds. That's typically an enterprise when they are embarking on a digital transformation journey. You take any financial services providers, or for that matter, you take any leading tier one retailers. They just don't want to depend on one particular cloud. It's not just the company strategy, even the nature of applications also demands different clouds. Example, Google is best known for analytical workloads, your AI ML analytical workloads, whereas Microsoft Azure has got cutting edge technologies and provisions for Windows applications related technologies. So sometimes the nature of applications, what you have, also demands a particular cloud. Hence, enterprises are really moving towards hybrid multi-cloud digital transformation. What do I mean by hybrid multi-cloud digital transformation? Hybrid in the sense you have a private cloud and a public cloud. Multi-cloud in the sense you have multiple clouds, AWS, Azure, and GCP. So a customer, like a banking customers, right? The customer data is very data sensitive, and the regulations may not allow you to, in certain countries, regulations may not allow you to host your data on the cloud. So due to data privacy and regulatory reasons, those applications like a core banking application which has customer sensitive data has to reside on your prem, right? It could be running on a VMware cloud, or in a very bare metal environment, or it can be running right. So or it can be running on a Red Hat OpenStack. In India, take the case of Airtel, Vodafone, all these given telco providers, service providers, probably might be using, right? I mean, probably they might be using OpenStack as a private cloud, right? So when you make a call, the telephone tower redirects to the core network, which is residing on the prem on a private cloud stack. right? On OpenStack. So what it means, when customers are more and more moving towards the retailers, it's definitely a need that they need to have a private cloud because of data privacy. But whereas analytical workloads can leverage the benefits of cloud. The true benefits of cloud is it can scale up and scale down. Say for an example, you take an insurance company. For every 6 months once, or every monthly once, or a yearly once, if you take a car insurance policy, they need to renew your insurance policy. When you renew your insurance policy, the premium that you pay really gets calculated based on various analytics. Example, your past driving history, or the area and the pool of people and the set of claims that they have incurred, right? So it's a the analytical logic. Or take a case of a banking customer who might want to check or wanted to do a retention analytics, or a loyalty or a bonus analytics. So that particular analytical processing might happen probably every weekend, or might happen every month end, or yearly once, like an insurance premium renewal. For that analytical processing might be requiring huge compute and the storage power. For that matter, we can't afford to buy such a huge set of servers for which is happening one time on the prem, right, on your customer enterprise, right? So cloud might be a best option just to spin off these workloads on the cloud one time at that point in moment, and do the computational logic, do the required analytics, right? And get the compute results back to the on-prem and feed it to your insurance application, so that your premium, your renewal premium gets generated and sent to you. That's the power of the cloud. Hence, what it means is, it every customer, every industry is moving really towards hybrid multi-cloud with customer sensitive data privacy applications running on the prem, and the rest of the applications running on the cloud, which requires very high elastic scaling needs at different points in time, right? Having said that, okay, now if I have to manage my private cloud, I require the private cloud skill set, isn't it? I need to know, let's say a private cloud is running on Red Hat OpenStack, or a private cloud is running on VMware software defined data center, right? And you have multiple other clouds. You have, so for since every customers are moving towards hybrid multi-cloud, how does a CIO maintain the skill set of all the individuals? Is it really possible to have everybody in my IT organization to be a champion of all the clouds? Can it happen? Right? I mean, we have people joining as students from college, joining the IT companies, and we have even senior people who might have worked only on one particular cloud, right? So, isn't it like every cloud has its own user interface? Every cloud has its own APIs, has its own command line interface, and it has its own language of construct by which you can do cloud automation and cloud operations. The here comes the concept of cloud of clouds. What does it do? It abstracts all of the complexities that are provided by each of these cloud providers, and provides consistent operations via a single pane of glass. What does it mean? Imagine you have your father of all clouds, or a cloud of clouds is a user interface. When you log in and you say, I need a virtual machine of capacity 8 CPU, 32 GB, right? And next, go to the screen. It will give you 5 options. Do you want to spin it in AWS or an Azure or GCP or your own private cloud on VMware or any other options, right? So the moment you choose, it calls the cloud provider, underlying cloud provider, and gives you back the cost, right? And you can also choose the set of software that you would like to install on top of the VM that you are spinning, right? Isn't it quite interesting? One cloud of cloud that you don't need to learn anymore any other public cloud provider vendor syntax, command line interface. You don't need to go to the user interface. Rather, in one single user interface, right, which interacts with all of the underlying cloud providers, right? The underlying cloud providers, and takes care of all the jobs. So you as a IT administrator or as a layman can log into this cloud of cloud console user interface or a CLI and start doing all your operations that are related to cloud maintenance across your private cloud as well as on the public cloud. So this cloud of clouds is nothing but a concept and a framework which abstracts all of the complexities provided by various cloud providers via a single pane of glass. That is the cloud of clouds, right? Isn't it quite interesting? Okay, great. Anay, can you please move on to the next slide? Yeah. So how does the cloud of clouds management platform will look like? What are the core ingredient components or the solution tenets of the cloud of clouds reference architecture will look like? So typically, you will have a self-servicing portal. Example, when you log into AWS or Azure or Google Console, right? You would have a self-service user interface that you can log in and start, ordering or operating whatever that you would like to order, right? Similarly, there will be a cloud self-service catalog, self-service portal when you log into this cloud of clouds, where you can do all your operations. And this self-service portal can be integrated with your enterprise Active Directory, or for that matter, any SSO and SAML providers. Also, while this is a user self-care portal, there is another administrator portal by which the administrator can mention the set of services that are available in a particular region or to a particular set of user groups. That's this admin portal. So say for an example, I as an administrator just wanted to limit, right? They wanted to limit provisioning huge VMs greater than sizes of 32 CPUs, or provisioning bare metals on the cloud only to some customers, right? Right, not for free trial customers, right? So all such administration related activities that you can configure, and or you wanted to introduce new features, it may be beta tested and you wanted to actually launch it to the users. So now the new functionality or the new service that you have need to be available in the service catalog, right? Example, today you go to the cloud and you can order a MS SQL server, right? Or you can order a Postgres SQL server, right? Tomorrow there is a new hybrid particular distributed data store database has been launched in the market, like a MongoDB or a Cassandra, new more databases come up. Now you as a cloud provider wanted to enable that particular option in the admin portal, right? So because you have done the development and you wanted to enable that to the users, all such cataloging options will be done in this admin portal, thereby the end users can start doing a self-service on top of the features that's been launched, right? And the next component is the cloud management platform and automation. Example, I do not want to perform any of these, right? Or any of these operations via user interface. Rather, I wanted to automate all of them. Say, for an example, I want to just go to the UI and click on a button. I have a huge core banking application, right? It requires 10 different servers for running each of the components, right? So what you can do is you can have a cloud management platform by which all the 10 server provisioning together can be automated via cloud management automation utilities, right? And that automation is, there are certain tools and technologies that are available in the market by which you can do that. And also you can even make your cloud of clouds. Example, take the case of Geo started offering IT enterprise hosting for end customers. Example, small bouquet shops who can't afford to set up a IT, rather they are looking forward for some cloud providers, right? Wherein they can't, the cloud providers just provides user login. Still, you need to have administrators, whereas you as a service provider can utilize this cloud management platform and create tenants for each of these small medium business units into this platform and start provisioning the required infrastructure, thereby those customers can access the applications and the servers that are related only to them, right? So what it means is you are talking about cloud of you are essentially setting up a cloud of clouds by which you are able to onboard multiple customers as each of them being a tenant, and right, and able to give them a role based access control. So the tenant based management is a key important feature. The next thing is metering, billing, and chargeback. What does it mean? When you have onboarded this small and medium enterprise users into this platform, whatever the consumption of the servers, the platform should be able to bill them appropriately or meter them appropriately, right? So that's the billing, metering, and chargeback related, items that we can do. The next thing is the management layer. You can you can do the life cycle management of all the services that you are provisioning here. Example, you are enabling one of the service, and by so and so date you would like to decommission them. By so and so date, you would like to enable it, right? Or only to a particular segment of customers, and you wanted to do a capacity and performance management for all the servers that are already being provisioned. Example, how are the servers that are being provisioned from a performance wise they are doing better, or how does it happen, right? The next thing is this continuous discovery. Let's say your end customers are logging in and keep provisioning servers, right? You need to have a mechanism by which you can gather all the inventories and metrics. So continuous management, continuous monitoring and tracking, and inventory and licensing management, everything is done by the management module. The next thing is the orchestration and automation module. So say for an example, when you log into the cloud and you are trying to spin off a server, the server requires compute, network, and storage. There has to be someone who may need to utilize all of these underlying. There has to be an automation and orchestration tool that has to orchestrate across the compute, network, and storage, and assemble them back together and provide you the virtual machine that you are looking out for. That's the orchestration and automation module. You can have predefined canned templates, right? Example, you need a Windows machine, right? When you go to the cloud, you see a predefined canned template, right? All of that, right, that can be done via the orchestration and automation module. The next thing is the control module, which takes care of compliances, access controls, and so on and so forth. Now, the entire layer interacts with the underlying infra as a service or compute as a service, container as a service, storage as a service, and backup as a service, right? Now, okay, when you do this cloud of clouds, how do you actually, every cloud provider has their own login. How are you going to do federate your cloud of clouds with the underlying cloud provider, right? So you as a customer, right, via you can predefined with predefined credentials, right? You can actually onboard all the cloud service providers. Now your end customer has a tenant where they log in. Depending on their user access control, you can provision isolated segments, networks, and storage, right? Storage and spin off the required servers and resources on top of them. That is precisely how it happens, right? This is one way. Or the other way around is that you can via SAML provisioning and mechanisms, you can do a single sign-on with your end customers Active Directory or your SSOs and SAML provisions. You can federate across them. Hey, hi Anay, I'm not able to see the desktop. Anay, is everyone able to see the desktop? Hello. And I think, uh, or maybe there might be a power cut. So let me share my desktop. Oh, Anna is presenting it back. Okay, thank
Jay,
you.
can you see it now? Yeah.
Yes, yes,
Yes,
I'm able to see them, right? So then the next component is cloud monitoring, right? So you have provisioned all your servers. Now somebody should be able to monitor all of them. How are my servers doing? Are they doing good? How are they being loaded? Are they heavily loaded over a period in time that I need to increase the capacity? All of that can be done by the cloud monitoring. The next thing is cloud networking and security, right? So in this era of digital, hacking is more prominent, right? How do I ensure all my customers are secured? There are various tools and service providers in the market. Even cloud by itself provides cloud native networking and security. There are third-party tools and providers by which we can do the cloud networking and security. And can you move on to the next slide? Hi, Anay. Can you move on to yeah. So how do I migrate to cloud? I have my, one of my customer who has got 1,000 virtual machines and servers. How can I let the customer to migrate to the cloud, right? So we've got various tools in the market, and there is a process by which you can do a sequence of steps. Example, you can go ahead and discover all your applications and the servers that are in customer's premise by utilizing a tool. The tool can, once you install the tool on the customer's premise, it will come back and give you a report stating that I have, you have 100 VMs, out of which 50 are Linux machines, 20 are Windows machines, and 20 are Sun Solaris Spark machines, and each of them are running JTE applications, JEE applications, or a Windows.NET applications, and it can give you an assessment report, yeah, and a planning report in order for you to migrate to the cloud. Here are the interdependencies between the VMs, and here is the sequence and steps by which you can, right? So if a customer has got 1,000 VMs, it gives you a clear cut plan. Okay, these interdependence, these 10 VMs are interdependent, these 7 VMs are interdependent, by which you can form groups of VMs and plan it and schedule it to migrate those interdependence VM together to the cloud. Thereby, you can keep migrating your customer from on the prem to the cloud in an incremental fashion rather than one big bang migration, which may lead to a bigger business disruption, right? That's this cloud migration steps and approach, which is a sequence of steps which we typically follow for customers. Anay, can you please move on to the next slide? Okay. Now I have migrated to the cloud. How do I operate on the cloud? My customer has got multiple clouds: AWS, Azure, GCP, even Oracle Cloud, and even hosted on the prem clouds as well. How do I manage all of them? Right? The customer might have a simple VM, or the customer might be using an advanced application platform as a service feature, right? Or the customer might be running some IoT related applications and so on and so forth. How do I manage all of them via a centralized operation center? Is there a cockpit by which I can look at all the cloud elements across on-prem as well as on the cloud, and keep doing a health check, all right, of all the servers that are provisioned across the cloud? That's nothing but the cloud of cloud operations command center, by which your set of engineers can monitor all the clouds in a single pane of glass. That's this cloud of cloud operations center. And could you please move on to the next slide? Okay, this is a very interesting area. You've got so much of data right from on the prem as well as on the cloud, right? There is data that's running on that's attached to the bare metal servers, or it could be on the virtualized servers, or it could also be running on a hyper converged infrastructure, or it can be running on a public cloud, right? Now, what if the server on the prem goes down, right? So you have to recover them. Where do you recover? From the backup, or from the you may continuously replicate your data on the prem to the cloud, thereby you can recover them on the cloud. Isn't it quite interesting? When a customer has a set of servers running on the prem, you are able to, when the on prem power outage or a data center goes off, or a pandemic situation has happened, right, the servers are not accessible, can you, just because cloud is always available, can we quickly restore it on the cloud? Thereby, my business gets restored within the stipulated SLA of recovery time objective and RPO, recovery point objective. That's this cloud of clouds data management approach. There are various tools in the market which can help us to ensure my data is continuously available from one data center to another data center, or from one data center to a public cloud, or from one public cloud to another public cloud. It can do continuous availability, replication, snapshot, backup, archive, long-term retention, and all of All of these can be done via this cloud of clouds data management approach. That's precisely what this data management approach is all about. And can you move on to the next slide? Okay, here is an interesting thing. What are the use cases that this cloud of clouds enable you? You can have hybrid multi-cloud operations across your private cloud and public cloud, or you can start on the prem and you can extend it to the public cloud. So cloud extension is the second use case. And the third use case is you're on the prem, like example, there is a Black Friday or a big sale day, right? You have sized to your hardware only for a normal and average set of users to log in. Because of this COVID, now a lot of people have started accessing my take the case of big basket, right? A lot of people have started hitting the server. Now I can't just all of a sudden go out and buy huge amount of servers, install everything and expand it. This cloud bursting is a use case by which you can start on prem and then burst it out to the cloud, right? Thereby, all your users who are logging in at a peak point in time, if your on-prem servers reaches beyond a capacity, the load will start getting redirected to the cloud. That's the cloud bursting use case. The next last use case is the DR as a service. What is DR? Disaster recovery, right? My servers are located in the data center. Now, all of a sudden, the data center goes down, the power cooling or some huge cyclone or a flood that has happened. You can treat cloud as a disaster recovery, thereby you can restore your applications on the cloud. That's all I have for today. I leave the forum. Anay, do you have anything that you would like to add, Anay?
No, I think we're good. I'll just unshare the slide, and Jay will try to take some of the questions which has come in. So there was one question, Jay, around the legal issues, right, when it comes to using the cloud. And I take it not as maybe legal, it is more to do with the compliance and the regulation. So anything you want to add, Jay, when it comes to compliance and regulation and how end customers or business will trust cloud?
Yeah, I mean, as Anay mentioned, right? When it comes to the compliance, yes, every country has its own regulations, right? Say, for example, in order for you to host a set of applications which are more federal or government entity specific, that has got a predefined clauses. So most of these cloud providers typically give a specialized segment of the cloud that are more meant to be for hosting federal or government related applications. Number one. Number two, for enterprise customers, there are certain regulatory guidelines which are already being adhered by each of these cloud providers, without which none of them or none of the enterprise applications are allowed to be hosted on the cloud, right? So that each of these cloud providers, when you as a customer approach them, they understand the region, and they would appropriately guide you. In fact, the region itself in the cloud, if it is unavailable in your region that you're looking out for, which your federal and the regulatory requirements require you to host on that particular cloud, right? Then the cloud provider themselves will not support it, right? So regulatory and compliance are the rules which are pretty much already been inbuilt. And if at most I would say, if you look at nearly most of the, I mean, top near cloud is there everywhere on 50 plus topmost countries. You have all the clouds tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 providers, everybody uses cloud. And it is kind of regulatory and compliant, specifically for uh, extreme security guidelines and vulnerability and threat protection and scanning. Customers tend to use third party tools and scan the entire cloud environment and take immediate required action to, to ensure your data and your applications are secured.
Okay, and just to add to it, the only other thing which I want to add, when it comes to cloud security or data management in the cloud or protection in the cloud, there's a lot of things which cloud service providers gives to end customer or a partner or a person who is managing it, right? So if you go to the terms and conditions when it comes to any cloud vendor, they talk about your data management security is your responsibility, and that is where people like Jay or me probably do consulting, talk to the customers and tell them that we are there to give you the comfort and we are there to give you the best practices which you should deploy on top of what you're getting from a cloud like model. And again, it can be private, public, and how you can make it readily available to the business, right? So you have cloud, but there are certain things which you need to add, which when we add that those things like protection, security, compliance, we are making that cloud business ready, and that's where the value comes in. And that's where, as I said, a lot of people are looking at cloud skill, because we have to ensure whatever we are getting, we are able to optimize it and present it to the business in a way so that business can consume with confidence. uh, the other question, Jay, was what do you mean by the terms federation in the cloud and resource cloud mashups? Anything you want to maybe voice it over
Yeah,
in a minute?
I think I answered this question during the course. There
Mhm.
are two ways that you can do a federation of clouds or the federation. Like you as a cloud of cloud provider can federate the identity management and access system that you have with the cloud providers. Thereby, you are seamlessly integrated with the cloud providers when they log in, and all the actions that happens gets federated to the underlying cloud provider with the same login credentials, right? So what it means is when you become a cloud of cloud and you have your end customers logging to your cloud, your end customers, depending on their user ID, that they become like a separate segregated tenant, by which when they log in and they do any operation, because of the single sign-on and federation from your cloud of cloud portal to the underlying cloud providers, the action set that you do are gets propagated as the same tenant or the customer. That's approach number one. And approach number two would be to, irrespective of the users, right, have your org-wide service principles by which you operate on the backend of the cloud, but have clear segregations. You provide your tenant specific virtual data centers across the cloud. Thereby, there is a clear demarcation of resources and consumptions, and you are able to build them, meter them, and secure them as well. These are the two ways by which I can federate across multiple clouds. Anay, we are not hearing you, Anay. Your voice is.
Thank you so much, Jay. I think that is what I can see as questions on the chat. So I'll hand it over to Surabhi, Ankita, for maybe
Yeah.
closure, I guess,
So
because I don't see
yeah,
any other
so it's
questions.
a
Yeah.
time. Yeah, it's a time to close the session. So thank you, Anne, and thank you, Jay, for the wonderful session. It was with the great presentations, and it was very informative course.